What is it that gives a life meaning? It's a huge question, one we all ask ourselves at some point. Well, thousands of years ago, ancient Indian philosophy came up with this really powerful framework to answer that very question. Think of it like a blueprint for personal growth, for social responsibility, and even for spiritual freedom. It's a philosophy known as the Purusharthas, and it offers a pretty timeless guide to a life well lived.
So really think about that for a second. Is it all about wealth? Is it about pleasure, your duty, or is it something else completely? Well, the ancient sages would tell you it's not about choosing just one of those things, but about skillfully balancing all of them. Let me show you exactly what they meant. The whole concept is called Purushartha, and if you break down the Sanskrit, it literally translates to the purpose of a human being. It was discussed in these really foundational texts like the Vedas and the Upanishads, and it lays out 4 interconnected goals that, when you pursue them all together, they lead to a complete and harmonious life. So where does this whole structure begin? Well, it all starts with one core idea, the bedrock that everything else has to be built on, and that's Dharma. Okay, so what is Dharma exactly? You can think of it as your ethical compass. It represents all those moral duties, righteous conduct, and our responsibilities to others. It's kind of like the rules of the road for your life's journey. It's this regulating principle that keeps you and everyone around you safe as you move towards your destination. What's really cool here is just how practical Dharma is. This isn't some abstract ideal that's, locked away in an ancient book. Nope. It's about tangible, everyday actions, speaking the truth, being honest in your work, respecting your elders, and taking care of the society and the environment that you're a part of. In this quote, it just brilliantly illustrates the heart of Dharma. This very famous line from the Bhagavad Gita emphasizes performing your own unique role in the world, your swadharma. Not for personal glory, not for a reward, but simply because it's the right thing to do. It's all about selfless action. Okay, so let's move on to the next 2 aims and see how this all builds. Once our ethical foundation is set with Dharma, we can then turn our attention to the more, worldly aspects of our lives, Artha and Kama. So Artha is all about material well-being. Think your career, financial stability, having the resources you need to support yourself and your family. And then you have Kama, which is about pleasure and emotional fulfillment. This covers love, relationships, and enjoying things like art, music, and culture. Now, this is a really, really crucial point. A lot of spiritual traditions can sometimes seem to shun things like wealth or desire. But this philosophy, it takes a totally different approach. It sees them as absolutely essential parts of a complete human experience. Having the resources to live well and experiencing joy aren't just allowed, they're actually encouraged. Of course, this raises a pretty big question, right? We all know how chasing money or pleasure can lead to things like greed, corruption, and just unhappiness. So how do we engage with the world without getting totally lost in it? And the answer brings us right back to our foundation. It's Dharma. Dharma is the guide. Artha and Kama must always be pursued within the ethical boundaries of Dharma. It means you create wealth honestly. You seek pleasure without causing harm to anyone. And this right here is where the real work is, navigating that tension when a personal desire might conflict with a social duty. Dharma is what ensures our worldly pursuits don't end up corrupting us. Now, once our ethical, material, and emotional lives are all in harmony, the path then opens up to the final and, frankly, the most profound aim of life, moksha. Moksha is spiritual liberation. It's the ultimate freedom from ignorance, from that endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction that can really define our lives. And it's the ultimate realization of our true self. It's a state of just profound inner peace and wisdom, a connection to something much greater than our individual ego. And this isn't about escaping the world, but about achieving a state of enlightenment within it. Its interpretation can vary. For some, it's a blissful union with the divine, while for others, it's more of a deep philosophical self-realization. The core idea, though, is a profound understanding of reality that brings about this detachment from the constant ups and downs of material life. So, how does this all fit together? The true genius of the Purusharthas isn't really in the individual goals themselves, but in how they create this holistic and balanced system for living. Just look at this flow. You start with Dharma, that's your ethical foundation. That solid base allows you to pursue Artha, which is wealth, and Kama, pleasure, in a really healthy, constructive way. And living this balanced, ethical, and fulfilling life, well, that's what ultimately prepares you and leads you toward moksha, or spiritual liberation.
This framework was even mapped onto the different stages of life, creating a kind of roadmap for a person's entire journey. So as a student, your main focus is on learning Dharma, building your ethical character. Then, as a householder, the focus naturally shifts to building wealth and family. That's Artha and Kama. And then in later life, the focus moves more internally, toward spiritual growth and that final pursuit of Moksha. It's a really natural progression.
And you know, this ancient guide is incredibly relevant today. It provides a roadmap for work-life balance, for ethical leadership in business, and just for finding personal meaning in a world that so often pulls us in a million different directions. It's a powerful, holistic model for human flourishing that's just as relevant now as it was thousands of years ago. So I'll leave you with this question to reflect on. Looking at your own life through this lens of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, which area do you think might be calling for a little more of your focus right now to bring your own life into greater balance?